Hello friends, welcome to Friday Beyond Spotlights, Hong Kong's new, insightful program looking into the lives of our most remarkable high achievers and getting their take on the city's past, present and future.
Our guests will give their personal perspectives for a new generation, inspiring Hong Kong for a better society.
So sit back and relax and we'll take you beyond the spotlights.
Welcome to Friday Beyond Spotlights, where we invite leading minds and game changers with incomparable experience and unique knowledge to come on our light-hearted yet informative show to help business leaders and the wider community gain insights, grasp opportunities, and see behind and beyond spotlights so we can get the full picture, dream bigger, and achieve more together. I am your host for this episode. My name is Nick Chan, lawyer and lawmaker. And Friday Beyond Spotlights is honored and pleased to present to you our guest today, Ms. Teresa Cheng Yeuk-wah, GBM, GBS, SC, JP, Hong Kong SAR's Secretary for Justice. Thank you for coming on our show today to talk about Hong Kong's strength as a legal hub and for deal making and for dispute resolution.
Hong Kong is a deal-making and dispute resolution hub. Our court system is very well established and the judicial independence is guaranteed. And Hong Kong is one of the leading arbitration centers in the world. Arbitration has one added benefit, and that is the enforceability of the arbitral award around the world under New York Convention. Mediation, there is also a convention that deals with that.
I think I've heard in other jurisdictions, many jurisdictions, there's a question over arbitrability of intellectual property rights.
Arbitrability of IP disputes is not an issue. People can resolve their IP disputes on arbitration. I've done that many times.
So that really strengthens Hong Kong as a great place for innovation and entrepreneurship.
Very much so.
This year is the 25th year of the establishment of the Hong Kong SAR. And Hong Kong is the only city in our country that still operates as a common law legal jurisdiction. So mainland China, like most countries in the world, are using the civil law legal system. Is the common law still going strong in Hong Kong?
Oh, definitely. The one country, two systems will continue, and with it, the application of the common law in Hong Kong.
Beyond 2047?
Beyond 2047. We're still very strong in the common law practice. Our cases are quoted internationally in other common law jurisdictions, and therefore, in a way, it helps to develop the common law. And our common law is also very unique because it's the only bilingual, Chinese and English, common law system in the world. And of course, it provides a very good system by which the international financial and business centers are being established and reinforced in Hong Kong. We have a very strong independent judiciary. Our legal system has a very clear system by which people can have appeal mechanisms by which they can take their matters to a higher court if they're not satisfied. And of course, the legislations itself, the statute itself, are very accessible, a very important element of the rule of law, because they are bilingual, which means even if you don't understand English, you can read the Chinese for the general public as well. It is accessible in the sense of we provide it on e-legislation in Hong Kong, so you can get it on the internet and very up to date. And of course, the way we draft our legislations is very clear and certain language. And therefore, the elements of rule of law, certainty, clarity, access to justice are all well preserved. Number of lawyers are continuing to grow. We have a large number, I should say, foreign lawyers in Hong Kong, mainly in the solicitors branch of the profession.
Hong Kong is a leading center for deal making, dispute resolution, and legal services. Do we have enough lawyers in Hong Kong? In the USA, there's one lawyer to every 240 people in the population, whereas in Hong Kong, there's about one lawyer to every 650 people.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
There's never enough. Actually, Hong Kong is an international hub where East meets West, and we're not serving just the local population. All the top international law firms have offices in Hong Kong, and lawyers and law firms around the world are using Hong Kong as the base to serve the Asia-Pacific region. Let me show you some figures.
course, when I talked about access to justice, I have to mention our legal aid system, which is also very fair and very broad in terms of ensuring that people are able to take the matters to court.
They say there's no monetary limit as to where you would go with the legal aid services. Is that right? There's no maximum budget?
Yes, that is absolutely correct, and
that's amazing.
That's a very unique thing. I think I haven't really come across other jurisdictions that are so insistent on ensuring access to justice. So I think that's something that really reinforces Hong Kong's position in the rule of law practice.
Sometimes we see in some media foreign politicians suggesting Hong Kong doesn't have human rights. What do you say to that?
It's very important to bear in mind that the basic law actually provides that the provisions that are in our Bill of Rights Ordinance are to be guaranteed. So human rights protection and safeguards are actually written in the basic law, which of course is the constitutional document for Hong Kong, and together with the PRC constitution, it establishes our constitutional order. So human rights is protected there. And our court judgments actually set out, we were talking about the common law system, the judgments set out the reason how the courts are to take into account the human rights safeguards when looking at whether, for example, the government is exercising its rights and duties properly and so on and so forth. That's the same everywhere in the world.
Sometimes foreign politicians who pledge allegiance to their own country, of course, understandably, they intervene with, things are done in other places, in Hong Kong, for example. Are they just being rude and nosy, or is it actually in breach of international laws, I wonder?
Well, I would start by looking at some of the very fundamental principles of international law between states. We start with all states are equal. And because all states are equal, no one should interfere in the internal affairs of another state, because that's the international law of the principle of non-intervention, and that really is a matter of respecting the sovereignty of another state. And therefore, it's a very fundamental point. And therefore, when people are doing things such as imposing unilateral coercive measures like sanctions on certain countries or on certain people with a view to making them or forcing them to change their policy, that may well amount to an interference and therefore a violation of this very important fundamental principle of international law.
As a common law jurisdiction, not all our laws are codified, written, easy to read in some ways. You have to read the cases. Now, some business audience might be surprised to see a lot of common law jurisdictions don't have a ordinance that is written like the contract ordinance. To flip open the book and read. Are there international conventions, contract terms one can borrow from to facilitate international trade as a common business language?
Yes, there is. And thank you again for that question, because one of the most successful convention that has been promulgated by the UNCITRAL, the United Nations Commission on International Trade Law, is actually the Conventions on the International Sale of Goods, CISG. It was its 40th anniversary last year, 2020 actually, I think. And there were a number of celebrations, but importantly, it also inspired us to enact legislation to bring CISG to be applicable in Hong Kong. Now, one of the things that CISG does is to uniform and harmonize the laws of various countries, because it was discussed through a number of jurisdictions, in order to come to a uniform set of rules that would be applicable to international sale of goods. And China has been a member since 1988, but Hong Kong hasn't really adopted the CISG. And so last year, the law was passed in Hong Kong for CISG to be applicable in Hong Kong. And subject to certain procedures, such as a deposit to be made in the United Nations, we are hoping that by the third quarter of this year, the CISG will be applicable in Hong Kong, and that will truly make all the trading activities a lot more easier, and for the lawyers to be able to provide advice on one set of law as opposed to a number of different laws, in the various jurisdictions would be a lot more efficient and facilitate trade.
Has the central Chinese government supported you in improving rule of law in Hong Kong, and have they listened to you in allowing you to participate in improving the rule of law in mainland China?
Well, I think it's not just me that they're supporting. It is the one country, two systems that they're supporting. And in supporting the one country, two systems, they definitely also support Hong Kong's reinforcement and establishment in areas that will help to strengthen our rule of law. So I think that's the way one would look at it. And insofar as my suggestions or my recommendations are concerned, I think they have been very, very helpful in helping Hong Kong to reinforce our rule of law, and of course developing our legal services. So I think we have been very fortunate. It's not me that the Chinese government, the central government is helping, but it's really ensuring Hong Kong as a whole gets that benefit.
Thank you, SJ. We'll be back later. Welcome back to Friday Beyond Spotlights. We have with us today Ms. Teresa Cheng, Hong Kong SAR Secretary for Justice. Who is Teresa Cheng beyond the spotlights? We've invited her to bring with her an item to share with us. SJ?
Can I
Yes.
show you this?
Yes.
This is a book that comprised the Constitution of PRC and, of course, the Hong Kong Basic Law. It guides the principle because when one understands how everything works, one has to start with the constitutional order of Hong Kong.
Yes.
And when one understands the rule of law, one also needs to understand how it is actually practiced in the context of one country, two systems. And this book actually encapsulates everything you need to know. And as a starting point, you can, of course, continue to read articles, come to our conferences. But I think this is a very good thing that I would say guides how I'm going to perform my job and, in fact, my daily life.
You might not remember this little detail, but I certainly didn't. About 20 years ago, I was a student. I studied arbitration under you.
Really?
Yes, because I wanted to enter in this new area that I'm not familiar with.
Okay.
Many of us, amongst us, students, we chat and say, wow, how do you manage as a lady to succeed so well in this, old profession, engineering and law? Can you share your journey?
I started off as a civil engineer, and I had the opportunity to take up law whilst I was working on a construction site in the morning. I go to classes in the evening and over the sort of Easter and Christmas holidays. So it was hard work, but as everything it should be, there is some hard work that you have to put into. And my practice as a civil engineer, of course, continued, and I got qualified and took the professional exam. And having then qualified, get the law degree and taken the bar exam, I thought I would give it a try and moved on to the legal practice. Now, the engineering practice is even more male-dominated in those days. Even the legal profession, the barristers, was also fairly and still quite male-dominated. And but to me, I think it actually gives me even more booster to do well, because if there are people who think that because you're a female and therefore you are not that good, you'll be easily able to prove that they are so wrong. And so I think that that confidence you need to have in yourself, and do not be afraid about people saying things or sort of looking at you in another way. Whatever other people look at you, it doesn't change you. So I think the confidence in oneself is very important. And of course, you have to know your stuff. That I think is a given. So I think I was therefore quite fortunate in that sense, from engineering into law and then ultimately into arbitration. So
that's wonderful. Does being a female inhibit you from achieving what you want, chasing your dreams?
Well, I think it's very important that you believe in yourself. And if you believe in yourself and you think you want to do certain thing, just go for it. Never mind about your gender, never mind about what other people think, because if you go for it, you will be able to prove that you are successful and prove them wrong if they don't believe in you.
What caused you to give up a very well-paid career as a leading arbitrator and barrister and jump into the hot kitchen in the government, where you earn less and perhaps you know, you rather having clients who keep sending you gifts during Chinese New Year, you know, people who you know may not see the big picture, but you know they have grievances generally about the government, and they you know release it on you.
Well,
why do you do it?
How would I say? If the country needs you, you will have to do it. And I hope that with my experience and knowledge in law, in the international law, in arbitration, I would be able to contribute to help develop Hong Kong as even a stronger legal and dispute resolution hub. So I think when I was called upon, one can't really say no, and I hope I've sort of done what I can, and I hope I've helped make Hong Kong an even better place.
What other exciting developments are in store for us in 2022?
2022 is the 25th anniversary of the establishment of Hong Kong SAR. So it's a very important year. And we are doing a number of events, such as a basic law conference, a national security law conference, the Hong Kong Legal Week throughout this year to actually celebrate and also to reinforce our rule of law understanding. So that is something that we're doing. We're also going to publish a book called the Basic Law Draftings and Annotations. And that will actually be able to help people to understand the basic law better. And we pick that as a 25th anniversary gift, if I may say so, to Hong Kong and to our motherland. But apart from that, this year, there are also a number of other things that we have been doing, and very successfully, and we will have to implement that. We held the ALCO, that is the Asian African Legal Consultative Organization, annual session in Hong Kong in a hybrid form last year. And it was also announced last year that the ALCO, Hong Kong Regional Arbitration Center, is to be established. So we are working, putting all our efforts in to try and ensure that the ALCO Center will come into operation very quickly and provide and reinforce Hong Kong as an international arbitration center even more. Because the very fact that this center is established in Hong Kong shows, one, Central People's Government commitment to the one country, two systems, and to its policy of making Hong Kong the dispute resolution center, and two, the ALCO, that is an international intergovernmental organization, also believes in Hong Kong's role being able to play in serving the Asian African countries in arbitration. So I think we have to do this and really make this work. So that's something that we are hoping to work on very quickly.
Did you know that the combined population of the Asian and the African countries makes up 3/4 of the world's total population? Now that's a huge market with business opportunities. The trade volume between Africa and Asia has been increasing exponentially. The trade between Africa and China has increased by 20-fold over the past 20 years and by 40%, surpassing $140 billion in 2021.
More deals mean more chance of disputes. Fortunately, the Asian African Legal Consultative Organization, the only such intergovernmental organization with currently 47 member states, it comprises almost all the major states from Asia and Africa, and is setting up a regional arbitration center in Hong Kong to provide more accessible and efficient dispute settlement services to Asian and African countries.
May I invite you to share some tips on how to equip the next generation?
I would suggest that young people should open their eyes to see what the development of the international world and the national community is, and also at the same time to be fully aware of the developments of the motherland here in China. So for lawyers, for example, I would suggest that they take the opportunity of the arrangements of secondment with international organizations that the Department of Justice has secured, for them to go and work in these international organizations and get the international exposure. Towards the mainland, I would encourage also young lawyers to grasp the opportunity to take the Greater Bay Area exam so that they can be duly qualified and be able to practice both PRC law and Hong Kong law and be able to expand their scope of service.
Thank you, SJ. May I also invite you to share your well wishes for Hong Kong?
I wish Hong Kong will continue to prosper and peace and stability to stay with us forever.
Let's get more personal.
Oh dear.
SJ, what is your favorite color?
Black.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
Blueberry cheesecake.
Ooh. Favorite drink?
Single malt.
A place where you bring your friend from overseas?
I take them on a boat ride and then have seafood afterwards.
Your favorite type of music?
It depends on my mood, ranging from alternative punk and alternative rock to very soothing jazz.
How do you relax?
A glass of red wine, lovely music, and the sun.
Last book you read?
It's actually The Soul of Man Under Socialism.
Proudest moments?
I remember one time there was this, successful lawyer in a particular jurisdiction, female lawyer, who came forth to me after I gave a talk and said, Ms. Cheng, I decided to do what I'm doing after I heard a talk given by you some years ago. And to me that I feel very proud because I'm able to help and inspire, if that's the right word, some young people.
Qualities you admire about your parents?
Supporting me in everything I do and in every decision I make.
Your dream job?
I think I very much would like to teach more.
And what advice would you give to your younger self?
If you see something that is right, proceed and continue to do it, and don't be afraid.
Thank you, SJ.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Friday Beyond Spotlights. Be well.
Teresa Cheng is a consummate government official with an outstanding career in the academic and legal professions, along with her public service position.
What an honor to witness this conversation with such an accomplished woman.
Thank you for watching Friday Beyond Spotlights. Till next time, goodbye.